All right, here's the quick backstory. I was running around the shop trying to find my big 4-pound plain label round lugged jersey so I can hang it on an East Coast Lumberjack premium axe handle. And I got 2 more of those coming there. And then I remembered I had it in the back porch with a couple of other heads because I was going to do a video on how I got this so cheap. It was mislabeled. Somebody called it a Rockaway. And of course, I imagine what happens is people go, Rockaway? They're Rockaway hunters. And they come flying over there and they go, that's not a Rockaway. And they move on. So there were no bidders on it. And I think it was asking, starting price was $22, but it was a buy now or make an offer. I like to cap my purchases at $20. I know there's going to be shipping and tax. So I offered 17, boom, sale. And they go, wow, that's an awesome condition. It had a little bit of a ledge there maybe he ground down. Other than that, that's gorgeous. I'm going to have to reprofile this. And it occurred to me, eBayers might need a little bit of help. I'm reluctant to put it up because more sellers start correctly identifying their axe head patterns. I might stop getting bargains because it'll attract the people who are looking for it. If somebody was looking for a 4-pound jersey, they'd come flying to it. There'd be other bidders. There'd be competition. Prices would be higher. A little more rare. Jerseys, in this case the Baltimore jersey, the difference being Baltimore jerseys have some cheek in the period that it mattered. The U.S. Forest Service gives you an overhead view where you can see this. Baltimore jerseys had cheek rise, they were wedgier. Plain jerseys, flat and thin, and because that it can extend the bit a little bit further. It's always a trade-off. You're going to do weight distribution, there's a trade-off where you're going to put the metal. I don't have a Rockaway, but I can tell you about it here in a second. First, what is a jersey? This, inarguably, is a jersey. Almost everybody recognizes that as a jersey. It's got pointy lugs. It's got those triangular lugs. Tall pole, tall bit. That ratio matters more than the lugs. The lugs really don't matter, especially when you have a company that's famous for making round-lugged jersey pattern axes. This one, True Temper Kelly Perfect, all cratered up, gorgeous, very frail in the eyes. It'll be interesting to me to see if I can make that work. I'll put it on a shorter handle and use it for a trimming axe. And here's the difference. We have a relatively long pole, and that's what makes these difficult, by the way, for people who are hafting in the beginning. This is long. The idea goes back for the jersey pattern axes probably in mid-1700s. So the Rockaways probably go back into the 1700s, preceding the guy who gets credit for it. All of these lugged axes go back that far. They're way before Collins started mass producing them in a giant factory. They existed already. And the idea was that it would put more metal in contact with the wooden haft. You might need that on a bushcraft style forest axe. You don't need it on, look at the size of that pole. Look how high that eye was already. And they extended it. So it makes it difficult to hang because if you're doing a narrow, a Collins narrow Michigan, you only have a little bit of pole, a little bit of eye depth. And it's not so significant if you don't get that completely compressed. And it's easier to compress in the first place. But this one, you have to get that haft in contact with the eye wall all this distance. Anything you leave uncompressed is unsupported. That extra mass becomes a battering ram because it's not fixing the head to the haft. It's now an extra weight that's being thrown without any friction. So your wedgemanship gets tested when you hang these. I see complaints from people their jersey heads are walking, and it's because of that. They got it tight down here. They got it tight up here. This is unsupported. It's going to walk off the shoulder. Okay. Pole to bit matters. Pole on this one is about 3 inches, 3 1/8. Bit height is 4.5, right at 4.5. Sorry, that's a little rusty. You probably can't see it. So 3 to 4.5. When you do that, this is only 3 and this is 4.5, and your lug comes across here. To come for the bit heel to come up to match where the lug is, you got to put a pretty significant angle. This angle is much more important. The ratio between the pole and the bit and the sharpness of this beard to come up to meet the pole is most significant in determining the outline of the pattern. Its cheekiness only determines whether it's a jersey or a Baltimore jersey. This is a Baltimore jersey. Again, in the time frame that mattered today, that doesn't matter. If you go to Council Tool and you want to get a jersey pattern axe, they're going to go jersey / Baltimore jersey, because we're not making that distinction anymore. It was a short-lived distinction. I got this one cheap because it was mismarked Rockaway. I got this one cheap because it was mismarked Jersey. It's got pointy lugs. But what's different is, see the pole? Is again, little over 3 inches. The bit height, just at 4. Bit's not as tall. If the bit's not as tall, when you come across to marry that up with the lug, you don't have to have such a steep angle. In other words, the Kentucky is more rectangular than having it doesn't have such a severely angled beard. You can see it if I put them together. These have about the same pole height, almost the same pole thickness, but when I hold them together, look at the difference in the angle of the beard. The more rectangular one is a Kentucky. The sharper beard is the Jersey, the Baltimore Jersey. Strange thing. If you make a Jersey thick, you call it a Baltimore Jersey. If you make a Kentucky thin, watch this. Look at that. Look at that. Look how thick that is, how wedgy it is. It still has some convexity this way, but this way, it's like a wedge. They took that extra mass they have down here. Remember, they kept the pole the same. Even the distance from the eye to the back of the pole is the same. All this stuff matters. Where's the eye located on the head? How much pole do you have this way? These are about the same. So when they made this, and they don't take this bit as long, there's extra mass down here. Where did they put it? If this is 3.5, and it is, it's very close to 3.5. This is close to 3.5. They're within an ounce of each other. Well, they put it here. They put it in the cheek. Is it as long as the Jersey? Yeah. But if you make this into just a Jersey, not a Baltimore Jersey, if you make that cheek thin, now you get to extend the bit further. That will let you reach into a notch if you're felling or bucking, and it'll let you reach in further. It also makes it stickier in green or soft woods. There's a trade-off to weight distribution. There's always a trade-off. Okay, we've got the Jersey and we've got the Kentucky. What's a Rockaway? I don't have a Rockaway. The Rockaway will take this pole and shorten it up. It'll go up here. Let me do it this way. It'll go up there a little bit. Okay? That means the lugs move up the face of the axe. Now, if the lugs are up here to meet the pole here, what do you do on this side? Well, you're going to have to make this a lot steeper. All right, so let me use this thing here. Now I've got to put, if I'm going to have a long bit, to meet that, to get that heel to meet up here with the lug, that angle has to get sharper. So you're going to take this and cut it more. But understand there's two generations of the Rockaway, and one generation had I think the more recent generation has the curved beard. So it curves up kind of like a cedar pattern axe. But you can also find versions where it's straight. So whether that's straight or curved doesn't define it as a Rockaway, though if it's curved, it's probably a Rockaway if it's not a cedar. Cedar would be much shorter. What they did with the cedar axe is they cut so much away from here and they cut the pole shorter to make it lighter. So that's related to the Rockaway for sure. So a Rockaway has a long bit like a Jersey, a sharper beard than a Jersey, a shorter pole than a Jersey. That's classic Jersey. Rockaway would be cut out more here and have a shorter bit. Kentucky, the ratio between the pole and the bit height is not as dramatic. This is only a 4-inch bit. More rectangular pattern. So what's this? If the geometry of the lug doesn't matter, then you go by pole height to bit height and that ratio, and that's a characteristic outline of a Jersey. It's the bit and the pole. Lug shape doesn't matter. That it has lugs matters. That if you label that a Jersey, you'll attract people who are looking for a Jersey. If you label it a Rockaway, people come by and go like, it ain't a Rockaway, and they move. Unless they also are into Jerseys. And they want a 4-pound plum like I did. I didn't care if it was a Jersey. I wanted a 4-pound plum. Really like plum. If you label this a Jersey, and people come in and see, well, it's got a crack in it, it's got a beat up pole, I want a better Jersey. And they don't know it's a Kentucky. They move on. So the story with these two is, this was mislabeled, I got it cheap. This was mislabeled, I got it cheap. And now that I've corrected everybody, that might never happen again. Well, count on this. My subscribers, I don't have many. I only have the best. If you want to be considered the best among the subscribers, click like and subscribe. Well, and that was cheap. That was almost, I feel dirty after doing that. I feel kind of grimy. But that's the difference. And if you want more money as a seller, correctly label your axes, you will attract a greater number of bidders on that item, which creates competition, drives the price up. If you are a buyer, try to stop me now, man. Get me kicked off of YouTube, because prices going up doesn't help the buyer, it helps the seller. It's all relative. Okay. Anyway, I wasn't going to make this video because Joe at Mills Creek already did it. I thunked my head and said, like, he beat me. And I mentioned it to him and he goes, no, you go ahead and make yours. That's my contribution to the discussion, okay? The geometry of a Jersey, once you know the difference, you see it at a glance. You know what that is. Because your eye tells you what the ratio is between that bit height and that pole height. Tall pole, tall bit. If you're going by ratio, it's shorter. It's the pole and the bit are about the same. They're not too different from the same. Makes a more rectangular pattern. Rockaway, much more severe beard, might curve up to meet the lug, but then comes back to a shorter pole. And if it has the curved lug, you might at first say, oh, cedar? No, that's not a cedar, that's a Rockaway. Okay, that's all I got.